Welcome to the channel. I wanted to try to do a series on the AR15, the absolute basics, to help you get a little bit more fluent in the terms and kind of the parts of the rifle. There's a lot of interest in the AR15 right now. It's mid-November of 2020, and in the future you guys will probably remember what was going on at this time, but right now we're kind of living through it. So probably the first thing that a lot of people are exposed to when they think of, I want to build an AR-15, is the I have to get a lower. And they know they need to get a lower. They don't know what a lower is. A lot of people are saying, I need to get an 80% lower, and maybe they don't know what that means either. So I'm going to show you a finished lower. This is, so AR-15 has two receivers as opposed to like a standard bolt action rifle, which would have a receiver. Okay, lower receiver is right here. This is well, this is basically a stripped lower. You can see that I've added this mag release. I'll switch it over. Okay, so mag release, you can see I'm actuating it. That's the only part that I've added to this lower. But you can see this is a complete lower that came from Nodak Spud LLC in Minnesota. And you can see that it has serial number information, model number information, all that stuff on it. So this was completely anodized in gray. And it happens to be one of their kind of special models that has no fence on it, which doesn't really mean anything, but it's a little bit less common. So this is a single piece of aluminum that has been worked quite a bit. So you can see that the mag well's been broached out, and the entire, let's see if I can get you a shot of it. You can see that there's a big pocket right here. This is the fire control pocket. And those cross pin holes there and there are for the trigger and the hammer. And this is the selector hole, and so on and so forth. So this is a complete lower that you would buy at the store. You need an FFL, what is it, a 4473 background check to buy such a thing from an FFL dealer, or I guess you could buy one from a private seller if you could arrange that. That is the component that is the ATF firearm part. Now, 80% lower, what does that mean? So you can see this is very similar. You can ignore this, what's called a full fence here. That's just a detail. This is the standard looking one. And you'll see over here very similar features, but you'll see that there's no serial number here. Again, this is 80%. You see the mag well has already been broached or EDM'd or whatever they do to these things. So that is fully completed. But what isn't, you can see right here, sorry, right here, this whole thing is completely solid, okay, versus completely milled out, okay? So there's many ways to complete an 80% lower. Most of them nowadays use a jig, like a 5D tactical jig, or the other jig I'm missing is very good. I'm missing on the name. And then there's cheaper jigs that are just drill presses, routers, etc. They work just fine. They're slower usually, and maybe they don't come up with the perfect finish. Okay, but that's a lower receiver for an AR-15. All right, now almost all lowers are interchangeable on an AR-15. There are more options when you get into uppers. If you're going like big bore, like 450 Bushmaster, you might need one with a slightly bigger ejection door than is standard, which they just open it up. Speaking of uppers, here is an upper. It's a little bit of a special upper. You can kind of ignore that it is an upper. This is kind of like a complete upper receiver. Okay, this would be like a complete upper receiver. So it has the dust cover installed, and it has, in this case, an A1 rear sight installed, and it actually has a charging handle. Okay, this is like an old style. Hang on a second. This is kind of a special upper receiver, okay? But this is the upper. Your bolt group goes in it. The barrel goes into this end, etc. Now, you can buy stripped upper receiver, okay? And it'll be this. Stripped upper receiver will be this without the rear sight installed. A lot of times you'll be buying these with a flat top. So there'll be a Picatinny rail on the top. You won't have a charging handle usually, and you won't have, a lot of times you won't have the dust cover or the assembly for the forward assist, which you're probably familiar with that existing of forward assist, which looks like a button that goes into the side. Okay, so that's kind of a completed upper receiver, and a stripped upper is kind of what this is. Now, you'll see complete uppers for sale, and a lot of times they're kind of referring to something like this. So this is an upper receiver, you can see. All right, it probably wouldn't come with the optic. Usually it's a toss-up. You have to really check, does it come with the bolt group and the charging handle or not? A lot of times they do not. But what they mean by a complete upper is they mean the upper receiver and a handguard and a barrel. Let's get the barrel in there. Okay, probably a muzzle device, and the gas block and the gas tube are all included. Okay, so a lot of guys, what they do is they want to buy an 80% lower. All right, they buy a jig, or they find a friend with a jig. They buy this. A lot of guys just pick one of these out, okay, that comes with a bolt group and a charging handle. This is called a complete upper. And then they buy what's called a complete lower parts kit, which includes a buffer, tube, a stock, a trigger set. Every single part that you install into the 80% lower comes in these lower parts kits that are for kind of complete. Okay, so you can usually make an order of 3 things: 80% lower, complete upper, and then a lower parts kit that includes every part. There's a lot of different lower parts kits. There's some that only have the little pins and springs and detents. There's other ones that have all those little parts plus the trigger group. There's other ones that have a pistol grip that come with them, but no other parts. And so there's a lot of products out there. You have to search through and see what you're interested in. If you want to do everything custom, or if you just want to get major kits and put it all together, it's up to you. I do it, generally I do it all custom, but you know, whatever. So that is a quick overview of what a receiver is for an AR-15.